September is National Suicide Prevention Month, and we are now going to talk about that here this morning with our expert. Talk to us a little bit about what this all entails, and when we are talking about dedicating a month to awareness, why that's so important.
You know, it's so hugely important. Every 40 seconds, someone commits suicide. So literally during this time that we're talking, potentially we could lose 4 to 5 people. That's alarming. And that's not to be doom and gloom, but it's certainly to show how impactful suicide is in our community. In fact, statistics show that it's up 33% from just COVID. African American men and children are having an alarmingly increasing rate. So when you think about that, having a whole month dedicated to not only awareness but prevention is super important because we want to save as many lives as possible.
You just mentioned some numbers and they are super alarming.
Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit about what the rates are when it comes to men versus women and what the disparities are.
So it's interestingly enough, women used to be increased, but now it's not. Men are actually increased. And they're looking at it because often men don't feel like they have access to care the way women have. Also, think about women. We're very vocal. So many times we'll get with our girlfriends or other friends and we'll kind of talk about some of our issues or our challenges. Men, not so much. They don't often feel like they have a safe space to talk about it. And then the other end, children nowadays look at suicide as actually a tool for coping with their depression versus necessarily a way of just being out. So we have to reframe what tools look like. I like to look at it like this. When it comes to suicide, I don't think that most people just necessarily want to not be here anymore. I kind of talk about the 3 Ps.
Okay.
They want to prevent performing, pretending, and the pain. Many people have to walk around as if there is nothing wrong, so they're performing all day. And they have no outlet to say, I'm not okay. Other people are pretending as if everything is just great. They're going through their life, they have all these responsibilities, and they continue to do those. Or the pain of hopelessness is so heavy that they have no place to turn. So now, thankful because we have months like this, we have tools that started in 2022, such as 988. You can certainly call that number and get immediate support from a counselor to be able to help with those tools. And then practices like myself, you can reach out for therapy and other avenues to be able to help with those negative thoughts so that you use other tools that are positive in your tool belt as options versus suicide.
You know, it used to be that, you know, back in the day, we didn't really talk about it.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, even just a few years back, really did not spend a great deal of time talking about it for fear that there would be copycats, right? And that people would actually kind of glamorize suicide.
Absolutely.
Obviously, there has to be a way to talk about it without those making it, you know, seem glamorous.
You're absolutely right. In fact, sometimes it can do the opposite. Because we don't talk about it, those who are suffering with it feel like I'm the only one dealing with it. But when we do talk about it, we realize that there's other people that feel very similar to me, and I actually have a village. And let me kind of talk with those people and find out what they're doing to be able to solve their problems. Talking about it is not negative in the least. I think it is how we talk about it, though.
Exactly. So
Right.
how do we talk about it in a way that's actually helpful and meaningful and doesn't kind of create the opposite?
So I think therapeutically, the way we talk about it is in a way that talks about more solution-based and not just maybe the way in which it's done, right? So we don't talk about the avenues in which you could commit suicide. We don't talk about so much heavily about the plan and the ideation behind it, but we talk about maybe where is this stemming from? I always like to look at it very much as we as humans are like trees. We have leaves that may shed in the fall. We may have limbs that need to be pruned. But until we get to the root cause of it, how can we actually solve the problem? So talking about really what's going on. I know you're feeling like this today, but where did this start? So talking more about the symptomology versus actually the end result of wanting to commit it is a therapeutic way of being able to talk about suicide in a way that doesn't glamorize it or maybe even push someone more in that direction.
And so, you know, we talked about men, we talked about women. When it comes to children,
Yes.
teens, tweens, what are some of those signs that parents need to look out for?
So a lack of connection and isolation is huge, especially when they're wanting to eat dinner in their room, especially when they're kind of like getting away from their friends. They used to be very social with their peers, and now they're just not. Continence and demeanor is huge. Now there are that handful of children who are, I would say, wonderful at pretending like everything's okay, because we talked about the pretending piece. But usually there's some signs that we're seeing, even if they're eating less. Maybe they're eating more. but something in their normal routine is altering, and it becomes a little bit alarming. Like, what's going on? This just doesn't seem like my Johnny. Look for those type of things. Not showering, being extremely depressed, not leaving the room, sleeping all day, or not sleeping at all. So it can go between hypersomnia and insomnia, but certainly they have a normal routine. When that alters, I wouldn't say necessarily be alarmed, but be aware and start asking meaningful questions that will pull out maybe what's going on.
You know, what's interesting too, it's, I think, hard for a lot of parents to decipher what is normal teen
Teenage
behavior, right?
Yes.
Versus something that definitely needs more attention.
I think that's an excellent point. Normal teenage behavior may actually kind of overlap into some of that, but that's okay because that's where communication is the key. We have to have an open dialogue with our children because if it's not that, it could be something else. And either way, we need to be talking about it.
Either way. Thank you so much. Such an
Absolutely.
important message. We appreciate you being here this morning.